allow me to introduce the new face of Revcord with our version 13 multimedia software. I'll spend the next hour going over the different areas of the software, including ones that provide customization, convenience, and ease. We'll start by going to the unique URL dependent on your logger setup. For local systems, the URL will start with an IP address /vrec or localhost /vrec. For cloud access systems, or rather those who have purchased the RevSync service, they will go to revcloud.revcord.com. This will allow them the ability to access their logger cloud tenancy from anywhere in the world, not just their local network location. This service also provides years of call recording backup for additional data loss protection from environmental mishaps at location. For our purposes, we will look at the demo environment that Revcord has provided at demo.revcord.com. And this will be from an admin's point of view. So I'm going to go ahead and enable auto login and get started here. Okay, so I'm actually going to start us off on the dashboard. Once you log in, we're going to start by looking at the dashboard, even though it starts you off at the search screen. This page is meant to provide you with a high-level view into the status of your logger activity. This is meant to be useful to the supervisor as it shows total users, including those active, types of calls, total manual QA, forms, including which are published, as well as many more insights from call channel summaries to active playlists, also known as incident recreation scenarios. There's also a quick button section that currently holds a fast pass to the reports section. Give you a moment to see all that. And this will be forever changing on a live system, dependent on the situation. Okay. Next up, I'd like to touch on the buttons up here under Instant Recall. There is a full and light instant recall option for quick call access. For instance, if I were needing to listen to a live call, I would click the full button on the top right and have a screen pull up that shows both the current live calls and the recorded calls for easy monitoring. The light version is going to pull up a separate window, as seen here, that shows only the recorded calls, which could be useful if working on other things, just to have that window pulled up. From this page, you can actually see which call is active, inactive, and offline, and the supervisor can actually double-click into there to listen to that active call as it's going on. Okay. So the same concept is actually seen in the call monitoring tab. So I will just pop over here. I'm going to select all of the channels that are on this recorder and hit Start Monitor. So this is where we can see a little bit more in depth under this Monitor tab. You would select the channels that you wanted to monitor and hit the Start Monitor button as I've just done. Just as before, the call can be selected to be listened to live, and there's currently no active ones on our demo, but those can be selected, and of course the statuses of each will be shown here as well. So as you can see, it's kind of a mirrored option, just depending on how you prefer to view it and what access you have. Okay. Hoping one would go active so we could see it together, but we can also come back and I'm sure one will be active at that time. All right, so moving over to the search tab, we have many options. We're going to spend quite some time on this one. I'd like to first point out the columns, as you'll see here, which are completely customizable per user down to the width of the column itself. This can be done under the Setup search page configuration, which we will look at a little bit later. You'll notice that I've added the columns in my login as I'd like to show, which includes the transcription column, as seen right here. Just as before, you have the ability to select exactly which channels that you'd like displayed. All right. I'll select the audio group just for the purposes of this demo, and then I'll hit search. Reminder that every logger will have its own unique MMS group names and configurations depending on your needs. So as you see here, this is all for demo purposes. Yours will be obviously specific to your environment. As seen up top, I can still manually enter in search criteria and even save specific searches for future use using the Save Search button. Let's do an example. Let's say that I wanted to search for calls from yesterday that were under 5 minutes. Okay, so we've got hour, minute, second. I want 5 minutes, only up to. Okay, so yesterday, under 5 minutes. Please note that the specific searches will bring up all call groups as I hit search that match the criteria, not just the ones you had selected from before. For instance, you'll notice some other ones outside of that. Just something to note. Okay, so now we have all calls from yesterday from 5:13 that are going to be under the duration of 5 minutes, as you'll see here. I can then save this search and pull these criteria up anytime by selecting the user search title that I'm about to give it. So would you like to save this search? Yes, I would. Let's call this one yesterday. Now it's saved that specific search, and so anytime I come in here, instead of putting in those same parameters, I can just hit yesterday and it'll follow those parameters for me as a quick button. I'm going to reset the filter now to start a new search, and that can be done by just hitting Reset Filter, as you've seen. If you hit Search after this is all blanked out, it will just pull up the most recent calls. If your logger is set up for any alley information or any other specific metadata that you would like included in columns within availability, you can simply search that information in the Search Library area for easy retrieval just as well. An example for this demo purposes in this demo unit would be to pull up calls from yesterday that have dispatch 3. So let's go. I want calls from yesterday that somewhere here mentions dispatch 3. I'll hit search. As you can see, any column that mentions dispatch 3, which we do have one, that is from yesterday, as you see under the start time, will pull up. This can be true for call comments or any other common material as well, or column material specifically. Call comments actually allow a unique note to be instilled by the user that can be used as a search criterion later as seen with the word test. We'll just put one here. So you can just put any comment you would like based off that call. You can hit enter, you can click away. Either way, this will show that it's saved, and that will remain there and be seen by any user that has access to that call. Okay. From this search page, you can also create and add to existing playlists from the drop-down menu, as seen here. Playlists are Revcord's name for incident recreation. You can even quickly maintenance playlists and which calls you want to add to them by selecting the icon directly to the right, which would be this one. It's titled Drag and Drop. If I were to click on that, it would pull up a whole new screen. As you can see, there's an X button here, and it would have me select which playlist that I'm wanting to maintenance. So for instance, I'll just select a random one here. It'll show all the calls that are currently within that playlist and allow me to pull more based off my search. Well, this one's maxed out. Let me pull another one for you. And it will allow me to drag and drop, that's why it's called drag and drop, additional calls into this playlist based off of the search criteria we pulled up. As seen, it's still showing columns, the library search for dispatch 3 for calls yesterday. So whatever you search, once you hit that, that's what will pull up for you, and that's what you can drag and drop over. Okay. You can also remove them again, delete them, whatever you need to do, and then of course save it and that will be saved to your playlist. If you need to create a new playlist before you do that, you can do that by just selecting Create New Playlist. It'll populate here, and you can go through that same process. Okay. All right. But we're going to go over playlists in a lot more detail when we get to the playlist tab over here. So I'm going to focus on the search page for right now. The middle icon that you see is meant for selecting calls that you'd like to export into an Excel sheet. You can export by selected calls, all calls, or even just the current page as seen here. As soon as you hit that, it'll ask you. Now, we don't have any calls selected, so once I hit that, it won't let me. But let's just say the current page, and I hit export. That's going to save the Excel file immediately to my downloads. I can open it, and I'll show you an example of what that looks like. And it'll look just like this. Any information that's within there will populate, including the transcription information itself. All right. The last icon will only be available if you have subscribed to the Revscribe service. This service allows a user who is permitted to upload calls via WAV and/or MP3 files and have them transcribed. The user would select the time and date, as seen here, as well as the channel that the call should be uploaded to. Once the file is chosen, the Save button can be selected. Before we do that, there's also this metrics button here. And this is a quick glance to show the duration of how much has been transcribed for that user from the day, month, or year. This is very helpful as this is a paid by the minute service. Pricing can be obtained by your local authorized dealer. Okay, so let's go ahead and upload a call as an example. I'll just select an audio file here. We're going to put it for today at 11:42 under admin line 1. Okay, actually, yeah, that's a commonly used one. Let's do 1001 because I know I use that one a lot. And we'll hit save. Once the call is successfully uploaded, you can now search by the parameters that you had saved it under. I've hit the search button to refresh the search that we've done. But before I do so, let me get rid of the parameter that it's currently set on so it shows us all calls so that we can see the uploaded one. Now it's going to include the upload that we just did right here. As you can see, it is already transcribed and has a different type of icon, which is the upload icon. That's how you know it's a Revscribe call. So let's talk about the transcription column. This is part of the Revcord AI service known as ReVI, and this is where the AI magic begins. I'd like to note that every new system will come with a 30-day free trial of ReVI, as well as 10 free searches each month after that initial 30-day trial. So that we can view this a little cleaner, I'm going to just do the audio. So every audio call will have a transcription section available during the trial and for those that activate the service afterwards. There are 3 buttons: View, Summary, and QA. View allows the user to pull up that call's transcription and even search within the call for specific words or phrases. Okay. There are also other options below, such as Print, Custom Redaction, and Map Speakers. Print allows the user to, as you can imagine, print their access to the call into a Word document, including any redactions their user isn't permitted to see. You'll see those as asterisks. Okay. We will talk more about user permissions during the Setup tab. The Custom Redaction button allows specific phrases or words to be redacted from the call for users that have more permissions but still need to pull or send the call redacted. This is a feature that is still being tested, but we have opened the access and we welcome feedback. Map speakers allows the user to distinguish the transcript between the correct dispatcher and the caller. So as an example, make sure I know which call we're on. Okay, so on that very first one, if I go to map speakers, I can say, well, the first speaker is me and the second speaker is the caller. It'll bring us to a verification page where you can actually make additional changes as needed in case AI makes any sort of mistake on harder audio calls, harder to identify audio, as we would call it. Once you're satisfied and confirmed with how it's labeled the speakers, you can hit Save Speakers. It'll give a message and say it could take up to a minute, but if we go back to view, we'll see that it no longer says speaker 1 or 2. Now it says the dispatcher and the caller. If you go to print it after you've done that, it'll also print that way, save that way, and allow you to send it that way as well. Before we move to the next button, I'll just show you an example of the, I have a lot of things redacted. I probably should have removed that before this, but show you an example of the search feature. So anything that you search within here, in 1 second, I know I've done a change real quick. Sometimes it's picking and it wants me to Control F5 it. Back to the one that we've done that has Shay and caller. Okay. I don't know if it's because I uploaded that one. It might be. But for instance, if you search a word, it will pull up every area that has that word, even if it's within another word. So for instance, tearing or tearing, you can go through and find all instances within that transcript of when that word is mentioned. This will be very useful later as we go through. And I apologize for this last one. The ones that are uploaded, this is the newest feature we've just added, so bear with us as we add on the features that were already there. There must be a lag or something on the transcription search from before for uploaded calls. And so I went ahead and just looked at one that came straight from the logger to show as an example. So just be mindful of those as well. Okay. All right, so the second button, which is summary, and I'll go back to the clean view again, 1 moment. So the second button, summary, this is going to provide an automatic quick summary of the call provided, including any restricted permissions, such as certain redactions, as seen here. If you hover over, it'll actually tell you what is being redacted. This is helpful when just needing a quick summary of a long call. Lastly, outside of this one, is the QA button. So this provides an automatic QA form specific to the call's needs, as well as grades that form based on the questions that the dispatcher did or did not ask, given the types of calls the AI denoted. The QA questions and grade can also be printed, as seen right here. All 3 of these buttons are automatic, and they happen for every single call. We're also, when you have the ReVI service, that is, we are also actively adding additional features and add-ons to this service. So don't be surprised, as long as you remain with the latest version of the MMS, to constantly see new and exciting features pop up. Also on the search page, you can select a call or group of calls to send to the manual QA evaluation queue. I'll show an example. You would select the QA form. So I've selected 2 calls from here. You can do 1 or 2. If I select 2, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do a multi-call evaluation of the selected calls? If I say yes, it'll have me give it a name, a comment, and then select the form, the manual QA form that the admin has already created that I would like to attach to this. Let's say I wanted to do 1. If I did 1, it would just have me select the form. So I would select the form. I'm going to put it under the test one. And this is the form that you would like to grade this call against. And then you would hit OK. From there, you would hit evaluate to go straight into the grading, as you'll see here. Or you can continue your work as needed from this page, knowing that that specific call went to the QA queue under the QA evaluation tab. And we'll be there for future evaluations. We will look at this in the next tab, and you'll see this call from 514 that I added there once we move over. You're also going to notice a call tags column right over here. This is another useful tool that can be set up by the admin under the Setup tab. Okay, it is a color coordination organization tool for specific types of calls. For instance, like fire, EMS, 911, or whatever else that you'd like to organize your calls by. Black is going to be the standard default for an unassigned call. Okay, once the admin sets up the call tags, all the users will be able to label the calls. So I'll show an example. It's currently under black, and if you hover, it'll tell you what the admin for the demo portal had set these as. So let's say I want to make this a 911 call. It'll change the color of it. Okay, just another way to organize your calls. Okay, lastly, for the search page, but I would say most excitingly, the search page provides ReVI, the AI chatbot, as seen down here. This tool can be used to ask for any type of calls regardless of metadata limits. For example, I'll ask ReVI to show all calls that mention a white Silverado. Once it's done processing through all of the results, it will ask if you'd like to make this into a playlist, as you've just seen pop up on the screen. You can review your results before answering, as this chat will be saved. It usually just takes it about 30 or so seconds to load everything. And the reason for this is because I just said all calls that mention white Silverado. If I would have given it just from today or a shorter amount of calls to go through, it would have been a shorter amount of time, for example. So this is going to pull from its entire history anytime white Silverado was mentioned. Now, I do want to note that this demo system has repeating calls. That's how we make it look like it has so many calls. So our results will not be realistic to such a specific request, but it is going to be accurate to get the point across of its capability. Okay, so again, as mentioned earlier, this will be saved, so you can exit out, but you can come back and still answer the playlist question later. That way you can review your results first. Okay, so as we go into these calls, we can search for white Silverado and prove our search concept. So I'm just going to pull up one here, and all of these should mention, a white Silverado. Right here, white Silverado. Go to another random one. White Silverado. So on and so forth. Down to each of these, somewhere mention a white Silverado. And again, realistically, it's such a specific term. Live logger situations would probably only pull up a handful of calls. So if you were needing that to help find a call, it would be more specific. We just have repeating calls, and so it's harder to see. But once you do find the call or calls that you're looking for, you can then go back to ReVI and have it create, name, and even take you to the playlist, as mentioned here. You can also go through the manual playlist creation as we saw earlier from this spot, but if I do ask it to say yes, it'll have me name it, which I will name it White Silverado. And then it'll ask, do I want to navigate to that playlist? If I do, it will take me to the playlist tab. If I don't, it'll just have that created for me to review later. So while that's finishing up, the possibilities with ReVI, it end only at the imagination. And we are, or it is, I should say, ever growing as our closed source AI continues to learn and be an even more effective tool. So very exciting stuff. I would like to move past search now and go to the QA evaluation form. So this page is meant to provide a manual process for QA for those that prefer this method. With ReVI, both options are available. There are 5 options up top on this tab: QA evaluation dashboard, search calls, dispatcher evaluations, feedback, and QA forms. Please keep in mind we are reviewing this as an admin, so they will see more. The first, under the QA dashboard, is meant to provide a high-level view of the evaluation specifics for only the manual QA forms. So just as the overall logger dashboard was a high-level view of the calls coming in as a whole, this is specific to the QA forms as a whole. ReVI's automatic QA forms are not included here. This is all for manual creation and grading. This page is great for admins to see the status of their dispatchers at a glance. As you can see here, top grades, a lot of neat things. You can dive into it even further as you go in. Okay. The next page is for searching calls, specifically as it pertains to QA. You'll notice that ReVI bot is not on this page, though the 3 buttons are. On this page, you can have the MMS pull you custom or random calls by number or percentage, depending on your preference of evaluations. For example, say that I wanted to have 10 random audio calls pull up that I could assign to the QA evaluation queue for manual grading. I would hit random. I say I want 10 random calls. I want it to just be audio calls. And then I would hit search. So from those parameters I selected, it snatched up 10 random calls that were just audio and displayed those here. Okay. The system will pull based off the parameters. So if we go even further and say, I want that, but on this date range or on this specific date, it will do that as well. You can then select all from here, or just certain ones to be added to the evaluation queue. So I'll select ones so we don't overload it, but notice it's from 514. I'd like to add that to the queue. I'm going to put it under the same QA form from earlier, and I've sent it over. The next page is the dispatcher evaluations. Before we move over there, I would like to note on this page, you can still view the transcript, the summary, and the QA as needed. And you can actually, not just by date and time range or duration, or even the custom text as we had done in the previous search call, you can search by agent as well. Now on the demo one, everything's under admin, so it's not useful, but on a real live situation, you can select which dispatcher that you would like those 10 random calls to be for, and just help, or dispatchers, and just help make that easier. Now, the evaluation queue is the same thing as dispatcher evaluations. So this is where the calls from earlier that we should see here as well. I would like to say that once you assign the call to a form, regardless of which page you did that from, the only way to change it is to assign that same call to a different form, which is not difficult, but you have to refine that call. There's not a way to change it from here. Once it's attached to that form, that's the form it's set up to grade. So please note that for convenience later on. So from here, we can evaluate those calls manually. So going down, we'll see these are on the APCO forms, and then the test 2025 form you'll see here. I might have done some earlier, but the ones we had done are, I think we did 1 or 2 earlier, moved over here, one from the search page and one from the QA search page. We'll see right here. Susan actually put your name here on. So these 2 I did earlier before I was with y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those out. And so now we should only be seeing the ones that we had moved over for today. Okay. So you would select which call you want to evaluate. You'll notice, and I'm going to focus on these 2, not that one, the ones that we had moved over earlier. under the 5/14 call date. And these, you'll notice, are a 0 score because they haven't been graded yet, and they're marked as in progress, okay? Again, your 3 buttons are always following you on every page. So you would select, then we go to evaluate one. You would select the correct dispatcher, and then you would fill in the answers. Now, this is a test form, so obviously a real form would be a lot longer and have realistic questions. But as a test form, I'm going to go ahead and we'll just throw a person, Mr. Peter Webb, and I would say, let's say, yes, he did greet them, he did talk politely, and I want to leave some feedback for the user. I'll say, great job. Now, I will say that as you're grading this on a real form, you can hit the play call button, and this will allow you to listen to the call because it pops up a separate pop-up as you're grading it, as seen here. Okay. It will play on a live situation. My audio is currently going through Teams. But you can have that on a separate screen, and you can go back and hit this screen, and it won't put that in the back. It'll stay forefront for you as seen here, so that you can listen to it, pause it as needed, and answer your questions to grade that call. Okay. Once the questions are answered, please hit the score call in the top left-hand corner in order to save the results and score the evaluation, like I've just done. Okay. Once this is done, the status will change to completed, which we'll see over here. Now we have 100 grade. Both questions were answered, and it is changed to completed. The results will also be in once you've done that. The scorer can provide the feedback to the dispatcher that only they will receive once that user logs in. It'll be under this spot for them. That's done under the comment section that we saw earlier, where I put great job. That is the feedback. Once the call gets marked from completed to closed, the admin can no longer edit the form, and the results will now show in the dashboard. So all these are under in progress, except for the one that we've just completed. Over to the far right, you'll see those options. I could go in and I can edit, and since it's only completed and not marked as closed, which is what that stop sign looks like, I can go in and I can still change my results. Okay. Once I do hit close, which I'll do, you'll see the result change to closed. And even if I go in and edit, I can no longer change the results. I can only view. There is a print and email option that happens once it's closed. Please note that. Okay. And that's when it will show up in the dashboard results as well. The next page is feedback. This is where that feedback would be for any of your calls that were evaluated. So as an admin, I might not have any calls being evaluated, but I'm evaluating my user calls. When they log in, they could come to this section and see their graded calls and get their feedback and, use that as a training tool to be better. Lastly, the QA forms page allows you to see the current list or create a new form depending on what you need to do. The existing list page has a few options available. The admin can delete, as seen from here, delete, edit, import, export, or even publish, which we'll go over, any of these forms. The QA form will not be available for grading until it is published. Okay, so you'll see some unpublished ones here. Every Revcord system will come with 4 pre-created AppCo approved QA forms as seen here. If you were to design your own form, then the system will walk you through the options available. And once saved and reviewed, don't forget to come here and publish it. So for instance, if I hit design new form, there's going to be 3 steps, a lot of options, and it will walk you through how to create that. Okay. And then you want to go here and of course review, like it, and then hit publish, and then it'll be live to be able to use. a lot of test ones in here, but of course they could go in, delete as needed. The admin can. Okay, next up we have the playlists, aka incident recreation. Any existing playlists that have already been created will appear on this initial playlist page, just like our white Silverado we saw from earlier. The limit is 500 per playlist, so you'll see it stop at that for larger playlists. You can view, edit, or delete depending on your user permissions, which is over here, view, edit, or delete. Editing will allows the visibility, the comments, or the name to be changed. When you enter into playlist mode, which I'm going to go to a small one so that we can see a little more detail. When you enter into this mode, you're going to notice two options. You're going to have a timeline view or a list view. This is going to depend on your preference. The default view is timeline. Some prefer list view for ease because it's just depending on whatever your preference is. The options will be the same regardless of which view you choose. The user can map playlist if GPS location is available. I don't think any of these calls have it, but if the Annie Alley, if that GPS information was there, it would pull up a map of the world and you could scroll left and right and find the dots. It'd be red dots where that call happened and zoom in and it will give the information on that call. So pretty neat. You can also add files into the playlist folder or the playlist itself, as seen here. And lastly, you can export the playlist to send as needed, which is right here. Okay. It also has the SHA-256 watermarking if that's needed. You can enable that. On any page that allows you to listen to calls, there is an expansion icon on the bottom right. So on the search page, on the QA evaluation search page, anywhere you can listen to a call, you will see that expansion module. This is going to allow the user to control volume, as seen over here, speed, as seen here, and even skip silences for convenience. This is also where individual or groups of calls can be saved, as seen here. Okay. Moving over to the reports section. This is where all admin reports can be created and exported. You'll notice that the ReVI icon reappears on this page. This means that ReVI can be used on this page to pull specific reports, which we'll look at in just a moment. The admin can also select the Create Report option for manual report creation. The initial page will give all reports. There are also pages for recent reports, reports created by that user, scheduled reports, shared reports, favorite reports, as well as an admin activity log. Okay. From the All Reports page, the user has the capability to create, delete, schedule, or share a report, as seen by these icons. Create, delete. If you hover, it tells you what it does, schedule a report, as well as share that report. If the user selects Create Report, then they can choose between what type dependent on their needs. Standard will offer all types of call parameters, such as call duration, type and date range to allow the user to select the exact type of report needed. If I go to Evaluation Report, this option will allow the user to select parameters based on a QA report, the view type, the format, things related to QA. Please note that the auto QA is not included in here, just the manual ones. If I go to Mapped, this will allow the user to choose the date range, and this is only useful if the location information is included in the metadata, same as if we were trying to map it. Okay. Lastly, the activity report will allow the admin to pull a specific user's activity within the MMS, as seen here. This can also be seen and exported from the activity log page as seen here. Okay. It will actually give down to the detail of coding of what that person did. So very specific. Okay. A great way, going back to all reports, to utilize ReVI here is to ask it to create the report for you. Okay. So for example, we can ask ReVI to, to pull a report that mentions a white Silverado. We'll just stick with that theme. I will note here while that's pulling that up, ReVI is still in its baby stages. It is a closed network, so it is a closed system, so it's learning everything as we go. So it's fantastic today, but please note that sometimes you have to word things correctly for it to understand what you're saying, and it will also try to guide you into that as well. All right, so it will give you the option of what type of report you want. I prefer tabular, but there are some graph options if you, depending on what you're pulling up, if you prefer to view it that way. So I'm going to go tabular. Once ReVI has a moment to pull up the results, then we can export or email this report. I'll show you where that is. So right here, you can export into these 3 different formats. You can even email it from right over here as needed. Please note that the user must be on the reports page for ReVI to create the report. If they're under the search using the ReVI and they ask it to create a report, I don't know if they've updated to where it will push you to the reports page, but before it wasn't. You have to use the ReVI on the page that you're asking it what to do. Okay. So the user from here can click on the details to load the calls. So I'll click on one that doesn't have 5,000 options. This will include the 3 buttons that we want them to follow you everywhere. And from here, we can search for a white Silverado, just like we had done before, to see where it is mentioned. Just as we see right here. Okay, and it should be, looks like there's 2 instances of it. So you can kind of get an idea of the possibilities with this depending on what you need. Maybe it's not white Silverado. Maybe it's you want to see all report for all burglaries that mention burglaries or fire or whatever it might be. But this is a great option for making reporting easy. Okay. The last tab is going to go over the 5 setup options, including the managing users, the search page configuration, where we manage the columns, where we can manage groups, where the admin manages call tags, and where the admin manages voice profiles, which we have not talked about yet. So I'm going to start at the very first one. Managing users. So from here, all of the users that person's allowed to see will show up. I'm going to pull up myself. So right here, so I'm a super admin, which means I should have all the ability. I can edit the profile, right? So password, name. Now your channel number and email, those are within the programming itself. So only the very first user created will have access to those type of deals. Even being a super admin, only the very first one created has full access. Okay. And you can change the rules based on your access. So being a greater one, I'm able to change others. I'm going to show an example on one that's maybe less. So let us take a look at an end user here. Here, you'll notice that there's more options that I can do. So from here, I can set up their specific redaction. We had talked about this before, and I told you I'll show you where you can do that. So all throughout the demo, we saw black bars and asterisks and obvious redaction. That's because my user, I removed the check marks from all of these to ensure that redaction would show up on mine. But depending on that individual's certifications and what they should have access to, the admin can go in and select what they can see. If they have access to HIPAA information, PCI, CGIS, they can select all of it, save it. That person would then re-log in, and now they would have the ability to not have anything redacted. They could see everything or specific to whatever was chosen, right? Okay, and so that's where you would set up that. There's also a section for assigning groups, which can also be handled under the manage groups section. So I can assign me to this. There's also the permissions, which will be specific per logger. You might have ones that if you're set up for the IQ3 side, might have IQ3 on there, or specific for types of needs for loggers. It all depends on how this system was set up. Maybe I can find someone that has one I can show you all better on. For instance, RevScribe. This is where you would go in, the admin, once the dealer has set up your RevScribe service after it's been purchased, then you as the admin can go in here and set up users to have access. And once you hit save here, once you go back to the search screen, that user will have this icon pop up, and now they can do the upload calls. That'd be an example of permissions. Okay. Now, search page configuration. This is for setting up your columns that we had described earlier. Everything that has a check mark by it is what's being currently displayed. Okay. Now you'll see ones that are just labeled as tags. These are typically what's used when integrations are set up in logger environments, or specific data is collected from CAD systems. Whatever, those are just kind of placeholders until we can put specific information like address, so on and so forth, that will that we can then add on and configure correctly and then have show here for them. I always make sure that when you get set up, make sure your transcription box is selected, especially with that free trial of ReVI. You want to make sure you're seeing that and utilizing it. And then you can actually grab these and say like, hey, I actually want that to be my first one that shows. You just drag and drop it. Just make sure you hit save after you put these in the order that you want. Now you can control your width. It's kind of you kind of have to play with it to get an idea of how far it expands it. Or when you're on your search page, another way you can do that is you could actually just extend it out to see what you need to see. Okay. Going back to the configuration page, please note that there is no there's no standard template right now, so everything is set per user. Okay, so everything I've done here is just for my user, and each user would have to set up their own preference. Okay. Also, that's a good one to show over here too. For the instant recall, which is IR, if you want to focus on those columns and what you see there, make sure you take a look at these as well. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Manage groups is pretty self-explanatory, kind of like we saw earlier under the user itself. You can add a group, remove a group, literally take a user and put it under another group. So once you click through them, you'll see who's under which. And from there, you can say, actually, I want this one to be removed from there, or I want to add a user. When you're actually trying to make changes, it's pretty self-explanatory. And just like everything else on here, nice, easy drag and drop. Excuse me. Call tags, even easier. So this is where the admin would come. You cannot edit in terms of deleting the black tag, because again, that's our unassigned tag. So really I don't think it lets you edit that one at all. But the other ones, absolutely. You have up to this many colors, and you can label them whatever you want to call them, delete. So there's only a few options. Just make sure you hit save. Oh, they might have, I wonder if they added more. Oh, they did. Oh, nice. They actually added where you can have more options. So again, you can add them, remove them. Just make sure you hit save. Okay. And then the users will have access to that on the search page to label the calls. Lastly, under setup, and we haven't talked about this yet, because just like custom redaction feature, this is another one being worked on. The admin will have access to this. This is the voice profiles for the users of the system. You'll also notice under the top right section a voice profile that's specific to that person. That person can actually, the user can go in, they can just start recording. We suggest at least 2 minutes, them just talking, and hit save, and the AI will start to learn your voice. And that way, when calls come through, if you're in that call, it automatically starts labeling you. So this is where we're going. We call it speaker diarization. It's not 100% there yet, but we have the bones put in place. You can also upload an audio file. Make sure you hit save. And then the admin would come here to the voice profiles under setup in order to train. If it doesn't have the train button, that means that person's already uploaded the clip, but you can change name, update, and once we get that fully launched, of course, the goal is to have AI making map speakers even easier for you, at least on the dispatcher side. Okay. You can also create a support ticket right from the MMS. It will get sent to your local dealer and they will assist you as needed. Our privacy policy is implemented, terms and conditions, all right here, nice and neat for you to read if needed. If you go up again to the top right-hand corner, we currently do have 2 language skins available, English and Spanish, as you see. Now, please keep in mind, these are just skins. ReVI is still English only. Anything that you type will still have to be English, but it will change the skin, so everything that you read, such as managed voice profiles, will be in Spanish. Compact just allows on the search page there to be more calls that show, more calls that show when you click it, just like that. Then you can go back to default. There's also the disclaimer that's here, available for you to always have access to. Your voice profile that we just went over. I think we've actually removed the live chat for now. But if you push this through, it will create, oh, I guess I added it back on. It will create a ticket and again, be pushed through your local dealer for them to assist you.